Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rome.
In our top story, the Biden administration has instituted a boycott against scientific and technological cooperation with Israeli institutions in Judea, Samaria, the Golan Heights, and parts of Jerusalem. This announcement from the White House shocked Israeli academics in the region who had successfully collaborated on projects with American schools and laboratories. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz blasted the Biden administration for its boycott of Judea and Samaria, saying Joe Biden and Biden administration officials are pathologically obsessed with undermining Israel. He said since day one of this administration, they have launched campaigns against our Israeli allies that are granular, whole of government, and are done in secret. Cruz noted that this new boycott of Israeli Jews is yet another example. The State Department is telling the entire U.S. government not to cooperate with Jews in Judea and Samaria, and it was sent to Congress in secret and only revealed because reporters found out.
The Biden White House has okayed a $16 million increase in funding to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. The move brings the total U.S. aid to the organization to $220 million so far this year. This announcement comes despite the recent testimony of Barbara Leaf, the Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs. She told the House Foreign Affairs Committee that UNRWA continues to create curriculum to teach in a way that glorifies violence and terrorism. This troubling behavior prompted former President Donald Trump to entirely suspend U.S. funding to UNRWA. Since President Biden's reinstatement of aid, the U.S. has become the largest donor to the UN agency, which works exclusively with the Palestinians, providing nearly $1 billion over the last 2.5 years.
The United States will not attempt to topple the Iranian regime. A senior Iranian official claims to have received assurances that the U.S. will not work to overthrow the oppressive Islamic Republic. Hossein Taib, a high-ranking member of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, claims this message was sent to Tehran from Washington through intermediaries in Iraq, Qatar, and Oman. Taib is an Islamic cleric and the former head of the IRGC's intelligence unit. He currently serves as the chief advisor to the commander of the IRGC, Hossein Salami. This comes as the Biden administration has been holding informal talks with the hardline Shiite regime, which is the world's largest state sponsor of terror. The negotiations have been focused on billions of dollars in sanctions relief in exchange for assurances that Iran will slow its rapidly progressing nuclear weapons program.
Israel has the strongest claim of right over the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. This from U.S. presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis. The Florida governor expressed his support of the Jewish state and its right to defend itself and its citizens. His comments came in an exclusive interview with Israel Hayom. The GOP hopeful also stressed that Israel is America's greatest ally in the Middle East, and the relationship between the two nations should be ironclad.
A major terror attack targeting Jews and Israelis in Cyprus was thwarted with the help of Israeli and U.S. intelligence services. Cypriot authorities announced they had stopped several plots linked to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The targets included a synagogue, hotels, and entertainment venues frequented by Israelis. Earlier this year, Israel's National Security Council warned that Iran will likely stage attacks against Jews in Cyprus and Greece. Both are popular destinations for Israeli tourists and have a large number of expats living there.
The radical Palestinian Islamic Jihad organization is currently holding a terror training camp for children in Gaza. This summer program indoctrinates Arab youth with hatred for Israel and teaches them how to stab and stone Jews. The military-style camp arms young people with fake rifles and drills them on fighting what they call the Zionist enemy. According to an official with the terror group, the goal of the summer camp is to ensure that jihad against the Jews will continue.
65 Republican and Democratic senators have petitioned the Biden administration to accept Israel into the visa waiver program. Despite being America's greatest ally, the Jewish state has repeatedly been denied acceptance into this program for decades. The senators penned a letter to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas requesting that they approve this measure by September 30th. The main obstacle is Israel's stringent security procedures at its borders and its hesitance to waive safety checks on Palestinian Americans due to the higher likelihood that some will participate in terrorism. Israel feels that waiving essential security screenings at its borders would be irresponsible and likely lead to unnecessary loss of lives.
The Hezbollah terror group has infiltrated Israeli territory and has constructed an illegal outpost. UNIFIL, the United Nations peacekeeping mission which patrols the border between Lebanon and Israel, confirmed that the Iranian proxy army has established an outpost in Israeli territory. UNIFIL was informed of the illegal activity by the IDF. However, it chose not to investigate or act on the intel until it was pressured to do so at the UN headquarters in New York by Israel's ambassador Gilad Erdan. The Israeli diplomat also pointed out that Hezbollah has built 27 outposts along the Blue Line over the last year in violation of UN Resolution 1701.
Israel has issued a travel warning to Russia after the Wagner mercenary group threatened a mutiny against Vladimir Putin's regime. The foreign ministry urged the estimated 70,000 Israelis in the country to weigh the essentiality of remaining in the region and to avoid hotspots in Russia. It also requested that citizens weigh the necessity of traveling to the country. Jerusalem announced that it would be sending additional consular employees to Moscow and St. Petersburg to assist in the increased demand for travel documents to Israel. There are believed to be 500,000 Jews living in Russia who are eligible to make aliyah or immigrate to Israel.
6 Israeli startups have been selected by the World Economic Forum as technology pioneers. This prestigious list recognized the top 100 tech firms, which are believed to have a significant impact on business and society. All of the companies listed work in the fields of artificial intelligence, alternative proteins, renewable energy, and healthcare. Meanwhile, in a related story, Tel Aviv has been named the 5th most attractive ecosystem for startups and innovation in the world. The annual survey ranking was published by the U.S. research firm Startup Genome.
Shuk Machane Yehuda in downtown Jerusalem is preparing to celebrate its 100th anniversary on July 2nd and 3rd. The iconic outdoor market located in the heart of Jerusalem is gearing up to mark its centennial. In honor of this momentous occasion, Shuk Machane Yehuda will host a competition of the best chefs in the Holy City who will prepare the dish of the century for celebrity chef judges. There will also be street performers, musicians, and dance groups. The Jerusalem municipality has arranged for cultural events for the whole family to enjoy, which include workshops and a children's show in the market. It will also present a short film highlighting 100 years of the Shuk.
Israeli archaeologists have traced the source of the biblical Techelet and Argamon to snails indigenous to the Mediterranean Sea. According to an article published in the peer-reviewed Journal of the Institute of Archaeology of Tel Aviv University, these sacred colors were derived from 3 types of sea snails found along Israel's coast. The dye, extracted from the glands of the murex, is so strong that fibers dated to 3,000 years ago are still vibrant. Professor Ayelet Gilboa and Dr. Golan Shalvi from the Zinman Institute of Archaeology at Haifa University led excavations at an ancient dye factory on the Haifa coast. They explained that argamon, or Tyrian purple, was one of the most commercially expensive commodities available in the ancient world. It's also a color that has a historical meaning for Jews. It was used for the curtain of the Holy Ark in the temple, as commanded in Exodus chapter 26. Purple fibers were also worn by the high priest and the king. Argamon purple and Techelet blue are mentioned dozens of times in the Hebrew Bible. The discovery of the source of these biblical colors has allowed Jews to return to wearing the biblical blue in their tzitzit, or fringes, on their garments, which is commanded in the book of Numbers, chapter 15.
The beach city of Tel Aviv has been named as the happiest city in the world. The travel blog published its annual rankings of happiest cities, noting that Tel Aviv's rich cultural heritage, kind people, and abundance of food, shopping, and learning made it the #1 global hotspot for spring break and vacationing as a whole. That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is the Minister of Intelligence, Gil Gamliel. Gila, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you.
So Gila, tell our viewers a little about what is the Ministry of Intelligence?
The Ministry of Intelligence is part of the political strategic intelligence system of the State of Israel. Israel is a powerhouse in the cyber area, and my role is to ensure that Israel will continue to grow and develop cyber technology in a productive manner. And I'm also responsible for artificial intelligence, which has become very important to the State of Israel.
You just had a historic visit of the Crown Prince of Iran, the son of the Shah. It was everywhere. I mean, people are talking about it still today. Why was this so significant?
This historic event held immense significance in fostering bridges between our two nations. The presence of the Crown Prince was a huge contrast compared to the current regime in Iran. It represented a leadership rooted in peace and tolerance, which is very different from the extremist rulers currently in power in Iran. The Crown Prince visited Israel as a member of the Cyrus delegation with a mission to promote democracy, human rights, and the restoration of the historical relations between Iran and Israel. His visit aimed to demonstrate solidarity with the Israeli people who had been targeted by the deadly terrorist attack from the Iranian regime. As we stood together at the Western Wall, a profound sense of Jewish history coming full circles filled my thoughts. It reminds me of what happened over 2 millennia ago when Cyrus, the king of Persia, or modern-day Iran, decreed the right of Jews to return to Israel and rebuild their second temple in Jerusalem. Now, serving as a minister of State of Israel, I had the privilege to extend an invitation to the son of the last Shah, allowing him to witness firsthand the site of the very temple. Together, we offered prayers for a new friendship between Iran and Israel. The prophet said that Jerusalem would become a house of prayer for all nations, and in our present times, we have witnessed the fulfillment of that prophecy.
You hear a lot about what's happening in Iran from the nuclear program, but not a lot of what's happening on the ground. You know, there's incredible strife going on there right now. Can you tell us a little about what's happening in Iran?
Iran, under the Ayatollahs, faces severe decline due to corruption, drug issues, air pollution, and neglect of public welfare. They prioritize terrorism, nuclear weapons, and regional conflict instead of addressing these challenges. The Crown Prince, who recently visited Israel, represents genuine Iranian patriotism compared to the current rulers. The Iranian regime denies freedom, human rights, and basic services to its people. Protests against the Iranian regime have emerged, triggered by the tragic murder of Mahsa Amini by the morality police. And these hijab protests, led by courageous young women, demand an end to oppression and violence. International solidarity with these brave Iranian women is crucial. And I have already joined their call. Women, life, freedom, zan zondagi ozodi.
We've heard a lot of talk about the Abraham Accords, but recently in Israel, people are talking about the Cyrus Accords. What's that all about?
The Abraham Accords, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, shows what could be accomplished with Iran as well. Iran's aggressive actions in the Middle East played a significant role in motivating Arab countries to sign these agreements. We hold hope for a future where Iran and Israel can once again be friends and partners. Prior to the 1979 revolution, Israel and Iran, under the leadership of the Crown Prince's father, the Shah, enjoyed a strong alliance and a positive relationship. Our historical connections go back thousands of years, starting from the time of King Cyrus, who allowed the Babylonian exiles to return and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, to Queen Esther, who bravely stopped Haman's plot to kill the Jews in Persia. In this historic visit, we took the initial steps towards rebuilding the cultural, economic, political, and personal bonds between our nations.
You were always a pioneer in reaching out to the Christian community, one of the founders of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, later on chaired the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus. How can Christians get involved with this new vision of peace between Iran and Israel?
I believe bolstering communication between the Christian community and the Knesset is very important. As people of faith, Christians share a profound and enduring bond with the land of Israel, with Jerusalem, and with the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. Recognizing Israel as a living testament to the fulfillment of the biblical promises, Christians have always been our most vocal supporters. We have to continue to strengthen these connections and work hand in hand to deepen understanding, foster dialogue, and reinforce the enduring relationship between the Christian community and the State of Israel.
Gila, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Those who share our conviction that Jerusalem is the everlasting capital of the Jewish state would raise their voices loud and clear. Expression, support for Israel is essential, but it is equally important to back those words with action. Let your advocacy be seen through engagement and involvement. Join organizations that promote Israel's values, participate in events that highlight our shared heritage, and contribute to initiatives that foster understanding and cooperation. Together, we can amplify our message and make a lasting impact. Stand up for what you believe and let your actions speak alongside your words.
Thank you, Gila, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Sam Grundwerg, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Even before the creation of the State of Israel, Karen Hayesod worked with Friends of Israel to bring home our sons and daughters. Watch this amazing story about how together we saved the Jewish community from Iraq.
In 1947, the United Nations took a historic vote to establish a Jewish state. But Jews who had lived peacefully for centuries in neighboring Arab countries became a target for violent retribution, especially the 150,000 proud Jews of Iraq. In response, the Zionist movement launched its most daring operation. Shlomo Hillel, who would later become an Israeli government minister and world chairman of Karen Hayesod UIA, was recruited to plan an operation which would save Iraqi Jews and bring them back to their ancient homeland.
אחרי שנה של שליחות בעיראק, אני חזרתי די מאוכזב וטענתי שאנחנו לא עושים די. ויום אחד בא אליי מישהו והוא אומר לי, אתה כל הזמן מתלונן שאנחנו לא עושים די, תבוא מחר לחיפה, ישנם שני טייסים אמריקנים שהיו גיבורי מלחמה במלחמת העולם השנייה, והם שמעו שהם יכולים פה להציע את השירות שלהם, לגמרי תכליתיים. אפשר לנסוע לבגדד, יש מקומות במדבר לחנות. אני אומר, כל עיראק זה מדבר אחד גדול. אוקיי, אז בוא ניסע. הכביש שיוצא מבגדד, מצד אחד יש בו שדה התעופה, מצד שני מחנה צבאי גדול. כלומר, שאני פה צריך להיזהר מאוד, יש גדר בכל שדה תעופה. אז ראינו באיזה מקום שהגדר קצת חלשה. באמת מגיע המטוס, מתחיל להניע את הפרופלרים ברעש נורא, והיום מדליק את הפרוז'קטורים כדי לעבר את המגדל הפיקוח שבתוך שדה התעופה, ואנחנו מתחילים להעלות את האנשים.
The pilots then took off and aimed the nose of their Curtiss Commando aircraft westward, home to Zion.
אז ברגע שעזבנו את שדה התעופה של בגדד בשלום, הייתה כמובן הרגשת הנחת רווחה, יצאנו בשלום. אבל האמת שזה עדיין לא הסוף. שכבו והחזיקו אחד בשני בידיים, ואנחנו עוברים את רמת הגולן, ופתאום אני רואה את הכנרת כחול, ואני כבר רואה מרחוק את יבניאל, ורואה שתי מדורות, ואז ישר הטייס, בלי לעשות סיבובים, בין שתי המדורות האלה נוחת.
Within minutes, the new immigrants had been spirited away to local communities, many pioneered by Keren HaYesod, to begin their new lives in the home of their ancestors. From 1951 to 1952, around 120,000 were flown to Israel in operations Ezra and Nehemiah, named after the biblical prophets of ancient Babylon. With the help of Keren HaYesod, these immigrants built new lives. They became leaders of Israeli industry, politics, and the military. Operation Michaelberg also demonstrated that Jews would return to Zion, whatever the circumstances. As the Jewish state celebrates its 70th year, Israel can be proud that time and again, it has plucked Jews from danger to safety. All of this can be tracked back to Shlomo Hillel and two brave American pilots. Today, many more Jews dream of returning to their homelands to play their own part in the miracle which is the State of Israel. Keren HaYesod is at the heart of these efforts. Jeremiah promised, "Your children will return to their borders."
Let's bless Israel together.
Now's the time for you to get involved. Assist Keren HaYesod to raise the necessary funds in order to bring Jews yearning for their homeland back to Israel. Your donation can help fulfill the biblical prophecy today. To donate and get information, visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
And now, Shining Light from Israel.
Located on Israel's eastern border, about halfway down the coast of the Dead Sea, is our beautiful national park of Ein Gedi. Ein Gedi is rich in natural beauty and spiritual significance. There are several springs here that feed into David's River, as well as the river of Argot. As a result, we have ruins here that date back as far as the Chalcolithic period, nearly 6,000 years ago. But today, we are going to delve into the subject of King David and the Psalms. The story of King David here in Ein Gedi really begins with him defeating the giant Goliath between the hill of Ezekah and Soho. After he defeats the giant, the king of Israel, Saul, gives his daughter's hand in marriage to David. David's popularity begins to grow within all the tribes of Israel. When the army marches through the towns of Judea, the people scream, "God bless the king! Long live the king who's killed his thousands, and long live David, who's killed his tens of thousands." Unfortunately, Shaul becomes extremely jealous over David's popularity. And as a result, he will chase David all the way here to Ein Gedi, to the springs here, where he's going to try and take his life. David, realizing that King Saul is high on his tail, hides out in one of the caves that lines the canyon here at Ein Gedi, just like the one I'm in right now. Hiding out in the cave, miraculously, a spider webs a web that covers the entrance. Saul, needing to relieve himself but not wanting to do it in front of his troops, sees the cave, sees the spider web, assumes it's safe to go in, takes away that spider web, enters the cave, and Yoav, King David's general, whispers in David's ear, saying, "The Lord has given you your enemy. It's time to take his life." David responds to Joab saying, "Who am I to take the life of the anointed one of God? I am but a trusted servant of the king." But what he does do is he takes the tunic of Saul and he cuts off the corner. The next day there'll be a confrontation between the two, and David will show the piece of the tunic that he cut off from him. Let's head up to the top of Ein Gedi to see where that confrontation took place. In addition to all of the incredible biblical stories and narratives that we can delve into here at Ein Gedi, the place is maybe even better known for all of its hiking trails through these beautiful tunnels made from bamboo and the waterfalls that kids and adults both go swimming in. It's really a great place to bring the family. After a solid hike up to the top of David's stream, which by the way, the entire loop takes about 45 minutes, we can see where the canyon comes together and the first springs that feed into the stream occur. And it was here that David's camp on one side and King Saul's camp on the other side could face one another, but still too much distance for them to fight. David looks at King Saul and says, "If I wanted to kill you, I could have done so yesterday in the cave. And to prove it, here's the corner of your tunic." Saul looks down, sees that if David wanted to have killed him, he could have. They kiss, they make up, and for the time being, they have peace between them. This game of cat and mouse between King Saul and David will play over and over again, all the way into the death of King Saul. However, because of this newfound peace, at least for the time being, between King Saul and David, David will always look to Ein Gedi as a place of refuge and a place where he can seek out peace and quiet, even when he's king. And it will be here in Ein Gedi that he'll write most of Tehillim, the book of Psalms, in which he says, just like the wings of an eagle protects its young, the canyons of Ein Gedi protect me. In addition to the incredible beauty here, Ein Gedi also has a great visitor center, a small cafeteria, and picnic benches so that you can refresh yourselves after an incredible day enjoying its beautiful nature. Thanks for tuning in today. And on your next visit to Israel, and the day at the Dead Sea, make sure to visit the nature reserve of Ein Gedi.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El Rom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.